A shocking move by the US government has left the world stunned. Hundreds of Venezuelan nationals have been deported, not back to their homeland, but to El Salvador under an 18th century wartime law. How did this happen? What does it mean? And why is the 1798 Alien Enemies Act being used for the first time in decades? Let's break it all down. To understand what's happening, we need to go back to a nearly forgotten law, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Signed into law by President John Adams, it allows the US government to detain or deport individuals from a country with which America is at war. It was used during World War II to detain Japanese, German, and Italian nationals. But today, it's being invoked against Venezuelan migrants. So why now? The US government, under President Donald Trump, has declared the Tren de Aragua, a notorious Venezuelan gang, as a terrorist organization. Officials claim members of the gang have entered the country illegally and are engaged in irregular warfare against the US government. Using this as justification, they invoke the Alien Enemies Act to round up hundreds of suspected gang members and deport them to El Salvador. Let's talk about how these deportations actually happened. Over the last week, hundreds of Venezuelans, many accused of being gang-affiliated, were detained in ICE facilities across the US. Then, in a controversial move, they were put on deportation flights, not to Venezuela, but to El Salvador. Why El Salvador? The answer is a $6 million deal. The US struck an agreement with President Nayib Bukele, whose government is known for its extreme anti-gang policies. Upon arrival, the deportees were taken to the infamous Terrorism Confinement Center, CECOT, one of the most heavily guarded prisons in the world. Unsurprisingly, this move has sparked outrage. Legal experts say that invoking the Alien Enemies Act in this way is unprecedented, as the US is not officially at war with Venezuela. Human rights groups have also raised concerns about deporting individuals to a third country without due process. In response, a federal judge issued a 14-day restraining order to halt the deportations. However, the Trump administration moved quickly, arguing that flights had already departed US airspace before the order was issued. Now, the case is heading to the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the Venezuelan government has condemned these deportations, calling them a violation of international law and comparing them to historical human rights abuses. They have also demanded the return of their citizens, though the US has remained firm in its stance. Even in El Salvador, reactions are mixed. Some see this as a win in their war against gangs, while others fear the strain this will put on their already overcrowded prison system. So what happens next? The Supreme Court is set to hear arguments about the legality of using an 18th century wartime law in this way. If they uphold it, this could set a precedent for future deportations under emergency measures. If they block it, we could see a major rollback in Trump's immigration policies. What do you think? Should the US be able to deport alleged criminals using this law? Or is this an abuse of power? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis on the biggest news stories. We'll keep following this case as it develops, so stay tuned.